Okay, these are the elements for the owl. So we've got the body itself, and we'll look at that in a moment. And then we've got a back part which we'll glue on. We've got the wings and the head as well, and the head and the back. So let's just quickly now put these elements together. So we've got, as I said, the head of the owl and the back of his head. A little bit of glue just to stick those down. And we're going to use this same technique for the wings as well. Just pop that on there. The two halves should hopefully match perfectly, but they don't always do that in reality. So I'd line up the front one, and then when it's dry you can just trim that off. Now the same goes for the wings. I've got them here. There's the front part and the back part. The back part's the more blurry part. What I would do is cut out accurately that shape just to start off with on both of them, both parts, and then line that up, and then just cut all of this out in one piece. Then you've got the feathers pretty well lined up, and it just saves you a little bit of work as well. So as usual, put some glue onto there, then just line that up, slide it around. That just spreads the glue out, and just line those bits up that you've done at the end there. Then when that's dry, you can do as I've done here, cut that out, and then the feathers more or less line up as well. It just saves you a little bit of work. Can't be a bad thing, can it? So put those to one side. Now the body we're going to put together and assemble with the wings and the head. And talking of the wings, let me just show you here. We've got a little white circle that needs to be cut out on both of the wings as well. We've got two slots there where they go in and out, so cut those out with plenty of room so that we can move those wings freely. They are a very specific height, so try and just keep that height exactly right if you can, because that creates the up and down movement. The body's here. We're just going to assemble that as we would any other box, and that's going to sit on top of our mechanism. However, what we are going to do is, when you make it, is not actually stick the back down yet, because with the back we're going to feed in all the mechanism and sort that out. So you can't do it with that being totally closed. So that's the last thing to go in when we're finished. The back will just close up and glue down as well. But what you can do is start just gluing the parts of the head here, those bits that fold back, and we can make the owl's body up to this point here, like so. So that's what I'll go on, and just glue this top part so that it creates this shape and keeps the back part open. Glued the owl's body together just up to the point now that you can see that it's just really just putting those two tags on there in the head, just pulls it together and creates this shape, and then that will eventually just stick down onto the box. As I said, we keep the back open. The wings are done. I've cut the holes through there and just sort of cut them all in one piece, as it were, just to square that all up. And as we can see there, and then last but not least, I've got the head to make here, and that again is just another box. It's the head of the owl, so as per normal now, I don't think this should be too challenging for you at all. Just make this up as a complete box, top and bottom, glue all the tabs, and then we can just fold that together. In it'll go, and that'll just, as I said, create a box for the shape of the owl's head. And that will look like that with the brown part underneath. Okay, so I'm going to go on and just glue that and firmly attach it, and then we're ready to put everything together. The mechanism's now ready, and I've done the owl's body, so what we've got to do is just put that onto it like so. Glue those three tabs and then just line that all up. Remember, we're keeping the back closed at this point. Just put the glue onto there. With the handles there, I'm assuming this is for a right-handed person. That's something which we've got to look at if you want to do it all round the other way. Okay, hold that down and just make sure that glues really nicely onto the base. I'm using my barbecue stick there, and I'll just go on now and just make sure that's all nicely lined up, all square with the base there, and glued really well. We're now at the stage you're ready to assemble everything. The first thing you've got to do is cut your piece of dowel with the spiky bit on it to 30mm, and then just cut that off, and we need to just glue that and pop it through there. This is the stick onto which everything's going to sit. So lots of glue onto there, and then just slot that through. You should feel it just going through the front, through all those holes. If you can support it with your fingers, that would be great. Sorry, makes it hard to see what I'm doing. And that should just go right the way through, then just sit there, and that glue will hold it in place. With the stick in now and nice and dry, we're ready for the next stage. Now when you were cutting this out, you'll notice there were a couple of little spares, and we've got some washers there. We're going to use these and just put a little bit of twist on it, and then that can just go on here like so. That'll just keep the wings away, because the next thing to do now is just slot these wings into position. Now we're working at the back, so we have the back of the wing, which is the sort of darker and slightly more blurred one, and just hook that, as you can see, over there. And then I'm going to pull in the next one, that goes over and hooks on. Then again I've got one of these little washer things that just rests on in there like that, and a little bit of glue now on there just to hold it in position. But try and let it find, I'm just going to turn it for a second there, let it just find its way. You can see the wings moving now. You don't want to push it too far, we want there to be a little bit of play, but also just to be holding it in position to keep them roughly in line. So I think about there's fine. And again, I'll just squeeze a little bit of glue around there, and that should just hold itself nicely. Okay, when we're happy with that and everything's in position and working nicely, of course the back can go over, and that can be glued as well. We're getting close to finishing now. The last thing to do is make up this little box here, which is on the owl body template. So it's a simple little box tube again, and we're just going to put that on the bottom of the owl's head there. If I can show you, just stick out the legs there and let that set, and that's going to be the part that just pushes up and down, so his little head will nod as well. And while that's drying, we can take the head, and now what I've done with this is just put a nice crease on it, so it'll just sit away from the main body, so it doesn't touch there and hit the body. And so just a long, about halfway down, a nice big blob of glue either side, and then that curve with that will just sit nicely, probably about halfway there, and that will just sit and hold as well. So we've got the head looking, if I show you the top shot, something like that. Okay, and when that's dry, we're ready to put that onto the back with a little bit of sellotape or clear tape just to hold the back of the head in position as well. The face is now glued on, and the little mechanism on the bottom is there, so what we can do is just line this up with the hole in the top there, and just put a little bit of your tape on, line it up at 90 degrees, whoops, get that back so that that's in the right position, and put the tape on there. Once you've glued the stick to the head and just popped it through, it might be a nice idea just to put a little washer on there as well. Again, that's just the small little piece of card that you'll see on the kit there, and if you just put plenty of glue onto the base of that and just sort of stick that down onto it, that will just help take away some of the friction as it touches on the stick there. And there we go. I think this is a really fun model and a little bit tricky to make, but you should have some fun with this. When you put it all together, it might need a little bit of fine tuning, especially with their mechanism. I find once the wings are on, sometimes you just got to just make sure everything's working properly. Occasionally the bar can jam here a little bit on the top flap. Now if that happens, you can just cut it back like that. You could even just fold it in and glue it then and keep that out the way like that, but that may not happen. That's just occasionally if it's just things aren't quite right, or the handle begins to wear down here a little bit as well, on the base. But by and large, I think you'll find this should work pretty well for you.